Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Studio City Neighborhood Council Land Use Committee meeting for January 11th. I'll call this meeting to order at 7:03, and I'll take roll. Scott Mandel is here. Jesse Porter, absent. Susan Hammer.
Here.
Richard Niederberg.
Here.
Dean Cutler is absent. Adele Slaughter.
Here.
And Joanne Deutsch is absent. We have a quorum. Moving on to item 2. I have no announcements and updates other than welcome back. We had December off, so we're going to be a little rusty. We're out of practice with these Zoom meetings, so bear with us, or bear with me anyway. We had December off. Moving on to item 3. Public comments on non-agenda items within the committee's jurisdiction. If there's anybody from the public who wants to make a comment on an item that is not on this agenda, please raise your hand and we'll recognize you. Not seeing any hands. Public comment on non-agenda items is closed. So we're done with item 3. Item 4. Now we're on to item 5, moving right along. Presentation, discussion, and possible motion, proposed project, and I will read this as I'm required to. Fat Sal Studio City, project address 12265 West Ventura Boulevard, 91604, case number ZA 2022-6930, CUB SPP. A CUP SPP for a change of use, facade alteration, and the on-site consumption of beer and wine in conjunction with a 1,492 square foot bona fide restaurant with 36 interior seats and hours of operation from 11 a.m. to 3 a.m. daily. A conditional use permit to allow the hours of operation from 11 a.m. to 3 a.m. daily in lieu of 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. on a commercial corner mini shopping center property, former site of Jamba Juice. The applicant is with us here, Salvatore Capek,
Hard C.
Capek. And we have, is Eddie?
No, you have Manny Diaz representing FE Design, Scott. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. So after that introduction, is anyone going to be sharing a screen and perhaps
Yeah, I'll give like a quick 5-minute presentation and share my screen if I can.
I'll promote you then to co-host so you can share. Does anyone else need sharing privileges? No. Okay, so just take it away.
All right, well, thank you so much. Yeah, so my name is Manny Diaz with FE Design and Consulting. We help Fat Sal's for the past 8 or 9 years. We've helped them out just with different permitting around the city. Sal's on the call, as you guys met him already. And so we're here to present the project and ask for your support for our request. It's at 12265 West Ventura Boulevard, which used to be a Jamba Juice. For those that aren't 100% sure where that is, it's at the northeastern corner of Ventura Boulevard and Laurel Grove Avenue. It's this, it's a shopping center here. There's many other businesses here. There's I think 103 parking stalls underground there. On that side of Ventura Boulevard, it's commercial, and then you have it abuts the Los Angeles River. There's the Studio City public parking lot kind of next to the Wells Fargo, which is one property over. And here's a site photo. You can see it's the property with the California Pizza Kitchen and a number of these other tenant spaces here. The parking is in the back off of Laurel Grove. And the space right here, the blank area, that's where the Jamba Juice used to be. Obviously, their signage is gone now, but this is where the Jamba Juice was. So a little bit about Fat Sal's for those of you who aren't familiar. We have Sal on the call, created it 13 years ago. They operate dine-in locations in Westwood, Hollywood, Marina Del Rey. There's one kind of down the road in Encino, and they have 2 additional takeout delivery locations in Lincoln Heights and Koreatown. They serve alcoholic beverages, beer and wine, at the Marina Del Rey and the Encino locations. And They operate until 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. at all their locations. So they have a spotless record with the LAPD and the ABC. They've been featured in TV and movies, newspapers. They were on Diner, Drive-In, Dash, Incredible Edible America, and all these different. They've had a great response over the past 13 years. And people really love them because of what they do. And so I think that's evident by all of the attention that they've gotten over the past 13 years. And I know it's probably around dinner time for some people. I wanted to show you kind of what makes Sal's so popular. It's these incredibly, I'll call them decadent sandwiches, right? So you can look, flaming hot Cheetos on a burger. It's just amazing. And I think people come because they think it's kind of like, oh, it's this novelty that I'm going to get this incredible sandwich, but they come back because they realize that a lot of effort and time has been put into the flavor profiles of the ingredients. It's actually not a novelty. These sandwiches are really, really good. And so that's why people come and they keep coming back and they really love it. And it's really what makes them kind of special and unique in the city. There's not many places where you can get a sandwich like that. So as stated, the request, we're talking about a 1,500 square foot restaurant with 36 seats. It's pretty small. There's no live entertainment or dancing proposed here. That's not what Fat Sal's does. It's just beer and wine at a public eating place. Hours until 3 a.m. They were approved down in Encino and some of their other locations too. And it's not really an issue for them. They haven't had any issues with building safety or the ABC or the police department because their places are pretty small. 36 seats, no dancing, no live entertainment. They can keep everything inside. There's no outdoor patio proposed here. Everything's inside the building. And, most people come, they come there to eat. That's the focus, not to get a beer. They can get a beer cheaper at a bar. They really come here to enjoy the food. And, the beer is just part of the ambiance. It's just one more thing that they put on the menu. But it doesn't really ever lead to like an extreme, percentage of their sales. It's the sandwiches that do that. So the other part of our request is for the exterior. So they're putting up some 3 new awnings, some bifolding windows, kind of a new door at the front, some vinyl graphics on the side, and a new wall sign, a neon wall sign. So I'll show what that all looks like in a minute here. Here's a site plan. This is where the Jamba Juice was. You can see it's kind of right up on that corner and the facing the Laurel Grove frontage. And the floor plan, it's a basic restaurant floor plan where 55% back of house, 45% front of house, pretty standard 1,500 square foot restaurant with 36 seats. And here's the exterior. So you could see the 3 awnings that are, there's kind of 3 different facing, where one, the door faces Ventura, this area faces the corner, and then this faces Laurel Grove. So it's kind of 3 different, sides to it. But the facade changes will be to add these 3 awnings, and then the Fat Sal sign, it's a wall sign that protrudes about 12 inches off of the face of the building, and it kind of comes through the awning. So it kind of looks like it's in the awning. It's actually not. It's kind of attached to the wall. It's just kind of protruding through the awning. There's also a little sign here in the door that just says Fat Sal's, and it has the hours of operation. And then there are these decals, which really, I'll show you a better picture of the decals, but right here is where the kitchen is. Kind of on the left-hand side where the window signage says vinyl applique on clear glazing. That's where the kitchen is. And so the intent of putting the decals there is really to, it's just not really attractive to see people in the kitchen. And it's also kind of makes it appear that the people who work there are kind of in a fishbowl. And so the intent is to put these in there and not to make it 100%, opaque, but to put some tinting on it so that we have a little bit of that privacy there. And here's just a comparison of what it looks like from the previous tenant where the Jamba Juice was, and then what it looks like at Fat Sal's. Also, these bifolding doors, or windows, they have that over in Encino too. They close them in the evenings. So just to make sure that it's airtight and there's not a lot of noise coming out. So, and here's just a little bit better side view of the signage and the awnings over here. And just another, this is the front door is on the right-hand side. And then the kind of portion that faces the corner is right here. So you can see everything that we're doing, and we don't want to deviate from the code at all. So the specific plan, we're following the code in terms of the areas and all of that. So, it's being reviewed by the planning department. And of course, if the planning department tells us, oh, make this smaller, make this bigger, we'll comply. We're not asking for any deviations at all. So we think all of this complies with the code. The architect went through it all, and we're pretty sure everything here is exactly code required. But once again, we're not asking for any deviations. We just want to comply with the code as it's written. And that's it. I think Sal's here. I want Sal just to introduce himself, because he's like the charming personality behind the business. And I think he's like one of the reasons why they don't have, why it's been so successful and why they haven't had just problems in the neighborhoods they've been in.
Thank you, Manny. My business partner, Josh Stone's on the call. He and I started Fat Sal's back in 2010. First location in Westwood and to Hollywood and Encino. So we've been trying to grow and bring our brand to as many people as we can. We think it's a fun brand. We're very dedicated to it. It's our life. It's our livelihood. And we build out these places, and we really put our heart and soul into it. We don't cut any corners. As Manny would tell you, he's been working with us for years. We use them because we make sure that they advise us to do it right. My background, I have a general contractor's license. I've been building hotels, restaurants, and bars for about 20 years now. I built the Shangri-La Hotel, the $25 million renovation in that back in 2007. And that was my last project before I hooked up with Josh. He's been running restaurants, and he's got more culinary experience than anybody I know. And we don't cut any corners. From the day we drew up our logo to today, we put our heart and soul into everything we do. If you go up to Encino, we sat in one of these types of meetings when we did Encino, and we just, like I said, we bring Manny in and his team so that we don't miss anything. We don't leave any stone unturned. My background in construction and Josh's culinary, I just know how, I'm very familiar with the code, and anything that I miss, Manny's there to, Manny and Eddie and his team is there to make sure that we don't miss anything. And like he said, if we do and we get a correction, can't tell you how many times, we've gotten corrections. It happens. We just make the correction. So, hopefully, you're as excited about us as bringing our brand to Studio City. We're really looking forward to it.
I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Josh Stone. I'm Sal's business partner. I actually live about 2 miles from this proposed site. It's an exciting part of town. We're really looking forward to being there. I see Dean Cutler's on this call.
He didn't say here. I don't think he answered in roll call.
Yeah, he was. I think he was a latecomer. I think.
Sorry,
Oh, Dean, hey, y'all.
Yeah, there's Dean. Dean.
I had technical difficulties, but here I am.
Dean's a little bit familiar with our brand. Maybe Dean could tell you a little bit about what we do. And we worked with Dean a number of years ago to secure Encino restaurant. And I think he might have an understanding of, the professionalism that we bring and oversight.
So anyone else from the Fat Sal's team would like to introduce this project before we go to public comment, which is the next step in the process? You guys were done for now?
I think we're good for now.
Yes,
Okay, so we're gonna move on to public comment. I'm gonna have a timer. We're gonna do 90 seconds for each person. And your time will start when I call on you. Bear with me here. If you look at the screen with the bicycle in it, that's where the timer is. And I will reset it. First, I'm going to call on Barry Johnson. Barry, as soon as you start speaking, I'll reset the counter to 1 minute and 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Hi, so I've eaten at Fat Sal's, 2 or 3 of them in my travels for my job. It was good. You should know, though, that the specific plan does not allow additional signage on the windows. In fact, the specific plan is very limiting in your signage. And at Petco near Coldwater, they put all kinds of stuff on their windows and they had to take it down. So you can't have fat cells on all these windows. You're limited to what you can have signage wise. And this neighborhood council can't approve that or not. That's by ordinance by the specific plan. So anyway, that aside, the only other thing I am extremely worried about is being open until 3 a.m. Even if you're not serving alcohol past 2. We have long established single family neighborhoods directly across to the north, across a pedestrian bridge. We also have it to the south within, 100 feet or so in each direction. And nothing else in that area, to my knowledge, is open till 3 a.m., much less even 2 or 1. I would say for this area, it should be midnight, Sunday through Thursday, and 1 a.m. on Friday and Saturday. It's just 3 a.m. is too late, and it's asking for problems with people coming from bars after they close, and that's where your noise comes at your establishment between 2 and 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. We'll finish the public comments first, and then you can respond to those, and then we'll go to committee comments and questions. Peter Cole, you have 1.5 minutes. I'll start your timer as soon as you begin speaking.
Thank you. I'm on a keto diet. Any chance I could get anything to eat there? And then I have another question. Does the city require you to switch to electric stoves? Or there's been all this talk from the city about banning natural gas. So I'm curious if that affects you guys. Thanks.
Thank you, Peter. 1 second. Anybody else from the public have any comments?
Peter should know it's not for commercial at this time.
Okay, thanks. Not seeing any hands from the public. Anyone from Fat Sal's, go ahead and address what you heard from the public, and then we'll go around the horn with the committee.
Yeah, I think I'll go first and then I'll let Josh or Sal comment. But yeah, I mean, those are valid concerns about the hours of operation. I mean, they definitely are, right? And so the same questions and concerns came up when we did the Encino project in 2016. And I think that project is very similar in that there's many commonalities between the two properties. One is there's on-site parking for both. So when people come, it's not like people are parking everywhere in the neighborhood, in the street, and kind of like going out at 3 a.m. It's all contained on the property. That's one. 2, there's no live entertainment, no DJ, no dancing. If people want to party, they're not coming to Fat Sal's at 2:30 in the morning to party, right? That's not the clientele that they have. 3, there's no exterior component. There's no patio. There's no like anything out. Patrons aren't outside. They're inside. 4, the patron area is tiny. I mean, there's 36 seats. So even it's really small. They can close up everything in the evenings, and you won't be able to hear anything in there, right? Everything is kind of inside the business. So, once again, all these same things were true in Encino, and there hasn't been any issues there. They've been open till 3. I think people were concerned about it, but once we were able to describe to them what this was like and all of these different factors, I think people felt more comfortable about it, and they've been really a mainstay and really successful there. And I think people really like it over there in that area. In terms of the specific plan, yeah, 100%, very 100%. If I think the rule is 10% of the window. And so all we're trying to do is just work with the planning department to see how tinted can we get. Like it has to be 100% transparent, then we'll make it 100% transparent. But we do not want to deviate from the code. Like you said, it's code required. We're going to do exactly what we have to do. We're not asking for any deviations at all. So I don't know if Josh or Sal wants to add to that.
Sure. It's always a concern with our neighbors. We pride ourselves on being fantastic neighbors. To all our neighbors, we have the similar situation in Fat Sal's Hollywood. We have neighbors behind us there, and to our right and left. In Encino, we have an apartment building that's, I think it's within 50 yards of us. And then obviously we're in a residential neighborhood, very similar on Ventura, in a very residential neighborhood. And it's always a concern with the hours of operation. And I think at first glance, yes, it says like 3 o'clock it's trouble, it's noise, it's just not the way we run it. We have very, very strict rules and policies of how we operate our businesses at night for this very exact concern. We have general managers at all of our restaurants. We have shift leads at all of our restaurants. We have an VP of operations and an operations manager that kind of patrol all these things and insist upon our standards of what we do, noise level, trash, all those things are really, really important to us. And obviously I'm in the neighborhood as well. So this is, and I can understand why it's a concern for you guys, but we do a lot to make sure that we can take care of those concerns consistently. We take it very, very seriously.
I just want to add one thing about, hours of operation and alcohol is always a concern. We have alcohol as a convenience, we're not doing, shots, this is a beer and wine place. This is for a family coming and, the mom and dad wants to get a beer or something like that. It's not everyone slamming beers at 1 a.m. and 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah,
believe it or not, Josh, I think, I don't know if we serve after midnight.
No, we don't serve after midnight, even though
we
can.
stopped serving alcohol at midnight, even though we have the CUP till 2.
Just to give you guys an idea, alcohol makes up about less than 5% of our sales. It's not a very big factor.
Right. It's a convenience thing. And then to touch on the fryers, if the city made a switch to electrical cooking equipment, it wouldn't affect us. I mean, right now we do use gas, but if there was some type of city ordinance that made us use electric, we'd have to get new equipment, but we use a standard griddle oven, and I think our ovens are electric, finishers on the sandwiches and stuff, but the fryers and the griddles are gas, but they do make electric ones. And as far as keto goes, any one of our sandwiches can be made into a salad.
That's right.
Okay, great. I think we're ready now to go with committee comments and questions. Richard has his hand up, so go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, the first thing was that a few years ago, another place on Ventura Boulevard wanted to have ticket at Dupar's and anywhere else you want to see if they're selling anything at that late. And the answer was no. So they withdrew their request because they knew it wouldn't do them any good. Second item is this. Is there much of a takeout business? Asking this because of the trash, not because of the people. I don't see much parking on those. So will there be a takeout, as far as you know, based on your experience?
You can go ahead and answer those. We'll go one by one with the committee, especially with long questions.
Okay, there was a little bit of an audio issue in the first comment. I couldn't really hear him, but then the other one was about trash and takeout, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Like paper cups or plastic.
Yes, we do have a takeout business, delivery and takeout. And we use paper goods.
Okay. Is there anywhere to dispose upon them so they don't end up in the street?
Yes, we have garbages in our restaurants and we can have some outside as well. We also do something every morning where our staff comes in early and walks the neighborhood and looks for trash on the streets. We do that in Hollywood. We do that in Encino.
I assume you're going to have cups and stuff that have your logo on it or something.
Correct. So we'd be able to identify it if that was becoming an issue. And we do walk our neighborhood to make sure that Fat Sal's trash isn't there. And that's a policy that's in effect in some of our restaurants.
Adele, go ahead.
Hi, Hi, you guys.
Hi,
Hi.
Hi, are you all from New York?
we originally, yes.
Yeah.
You sound like New York is to me. Yeah,
Moved to LA in 2000.
oh, cool. I moved in 1994. Long time.
Yeah.
So welcome to the neighborhood. I think it's awesome. I think it's a great spot for you guys. I agree with the concern about the hours, although what I'm thinking is because if most of the restaurants around like Granville closes at 9 and Pizza Kitchen closes at 10 and there's a couple other places close at midnight. And the reason that happens, and I'm sure it happens in Encino too, is that everyone here kind of goes to bed. It's a sleepy community. And since you're having your liquor stop at midnight, it suggests to me that the hours between midnight and 3 are really takeout. That's where people, who maybe are hitting a little weed, which is legal now, are ordering sandwiches to have. And so not that I'm not judging that. I'm just saying that, people are coming in to get late night snacks or huge sandwich snacks. So is that what your experience is? Or, because you're in these, like,
we get a mixture in Encino of takeout, delivery, and people who are
coming
eating
in.
restaurant. Yep.
There's a lot of variables, like recently with all the rain you guys have been getting a lot, we have a little bit higher spike in, takeout deliveries because, people don't want to come out in the rain and go get food. But I mean, it's a good mix. Usually weather kind of impacts it.
I guess the thing that, people get concerned about is, having sort of like changing the landscape, of our community and having a lot of late, activity. I mean, I'm not sure what it is, but I think that, people don't want to have a lot of noise and, disruption next to residential areas. So I don't know. I mean, but my question to you really is, if you don't have the business, will you still stay open till 3?
No.
So it's really dependent on the business.
It's supply and demand. If there's nights where like we get quiet at 11 p.m., we close at 11 p.m. if that's consistent. Yeah, it doesn't make sense for us to stay open if we're not doing business.
Right. And does that happen in Encino?
Encino's hours, I think Sunday nights we close a little bit early, but I believe we're 2 o'clock Monday through Thursday and 3, or Monday through Wednesday and 3, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
But that's not in the CUP. What you got 3 o'clock for the whole time? Or
Yeah, we got 3 o'clock for the whole time. Those were just business decisions to try to save money and trim labor costs.
And there were times, obviously the last 3 years have been a little bit of a roller coaster. We at one point we were closing at 1. We review our product mix, our sales numbers, daily, but monthly and quarterly, and we reevaluate, when we should, open and close and all that.
Just to give you guys an idea.
You're breaking up, Josh.
Or noise
Josh.
complaint, or like can you hear me now? How about now?
That's better.
We haven't had, can everybody hear me? We haven't had a sound complaint, a noise complaint, or a people complaint in how long have we been open in Encino?
July 2017, we opened.
Yeah, since then, we haven't had one complaint, and anything that's.
I think it's not so much about the complaint is like, let's say you have, 15 restaurants come into Studio City and everybody wants to stay open till 3. And now we have this hopping, nightlife, and it's upsetting people. It's like you let one guy through the door and now 20 more want to come in. So
to give you an understanding, most restaurateurs do not want to operate till 3 a.m. It's
I would
not
imagine.
easy. It's not easy. Number one, with the current labor laws, you have to have a trained staff for your like daytime, your midtime, and your close. So you need 3 different individuals to work if you keep those hours. So there's a lot of like challenges to operating like that. It's part of our business and our brand, but I I wouldn't worry about a lot of restaurateurs wanting to open late. In a lot of places they can and they choose not to. It adds a level of difficulty that's not for everybody.
I have to say, one thing that I really like about your hours is the 11 o'clock open. So, I like that part. So, I think it is a particular, it's sort of a New York brand to stay
Mhm.
open late,
Mhm.
it makes sense. Yeah. So anyway, those are some of my thoughts.
Yeah.
If
I had
you know-
one
Go ahead.
one thought on that, Adele, was that, I think that whole idea of kind of, setting this up for the future, I think it really, like every neighborhood council we go to, we always say, hey, it's a case by case basis, like every project, right? Whether it's mixed use or whatever it is. And in this case, 36 seats, no live entertainment, no dancing. They have on-site parking. They have a track record that's spotless in Westwood and Marina Del Rey and Encino, your neighbors to the right next door, and they haven't had any issues. And so just case by case, it's just one of the perfect places.
And it's a good spot. I mean, it's a good spot because it's
a commercial place.
Yeah.
And I think the late hours, I think we see it along the lines as the beer and wine. It's a convenience. We want to be open, but we don't want you to even know we're open. So you can drive by the Encino store at 2 a.m. and whether we have 20 people in that restaurant or 3 people in that restaurant, it's not going to be any different to you. And that's what our plan is. And that's how we run our business. Like, it's open. You want to go to bed at 10, that's fine. But if someone's open at 1 a.m. and you're up at 1 a.m. and they want to eat, we're doing the things you said they would, you mentioned, and we want to
in the same
appeal
way
to a wide, 20 to 50. We don't want to just appeal to 25-year-olds or 50-year-olds.
What I think it's akin to is like a CVS or a Walgreens, where they're 24 hours, but they don't create a lot of commotion, but they are that convenience. If you need Tylenol and it's 2 a.m, you can go there. Well, if you want like a real meal and you don't want like fast food burgers and you want something that's like cooked to order for you, that's comfort food, we're there for you.
Right, Susan has her hand up. I'll go last. Susan, go ahead.
Okay, hello, everybody. I just wanted to ask a couple questions. I was thinking that your underground parking is closed after a certain hour. Doesn't it close up?
Don't believe so, but we can check with our landlord.
Because they usually have an attendant there. I'm surprised they would keep an attendant all night. Because then parking would be an issue there. There's no parking in that neighborhood. So when you talk about 20 people or however many people, unless they're Ubering, there wouldn't be parking for them. I have kind of the same concerns. One, the hours, but 2, the vinyl on the windows with the basically signage on them. I think it's fine to put vinyl on your windows and keep out the sun, but it's a bit much to have signage all the way around. It's kind of tacky. I would be opposed to that, but it's not a huge deal for me. That was all.
Susan, I'll check with our landlord and about the parking. If that is becomes an issue, or if there's something a hurdle to jump there, we will jump it and figure something out.
Well, I don't go to that mall, that area anymore. Back in the Jamba Juice days, and the different restaurants have come and gone out of there. I used to go, and there are times when the gate is down in the old days, but I haven't been there for a long time. Certainly not before 2020. I mean, since 2020.
All right, so I'll make just a couple comments and observations. Actually, the planning department's website, it lists your signage as an approved document, and it has all the drawings you just showed us. So I'm not sure what's up with that, but I imagine if the code says you can't do this, the vinyl windows, you can't do the vinyl windows. I was over there today, actually, and there was no parking attendant downstairs. In fact, there were plenty of open spots. So it would be, I would imagine the landlord would let you have the parking lot if you're going to stay open, but that's between you and them. But there was no parking attendant there today. There was some trash in the Jamba Juice area landscape, beer bottles and cups from other businesses and stuff. So hearing that you guys clean up the area, I'm sure you know there's some homeless encampments in the vicinity as well. So that would certainly be welcome. There was actually a homeless person blocking the entrance from the rear. There's also parking behind the building as well. There's quite a few spots, and there were some open. As far as the trash, all the trash receptacles are all locked, which is great. So when you guys are not there, we're not going to be seeing on the Citizen app, trash fire at this location. I would ask one thing: if you are closing at 3, if they're making a trash run, to consider the fact that it'll be pretty quiet, and throwing trash bags and moving the dumpsters and slamming the lids and locking the door. That would probably be the noisiest thing that I could think of that would be coming from from that specific location. So just keeping that in mind,
Sure.
would be great. I don't think you guys are going to go back there and just start slamming the trash cans, but those will. You mentioned delivery. Is that going to be your delivery drivers or just the services like Uber Eats?
Third party.
Great.
Party.
And then I think, is your restroom going to be open to the public or for customers?
For customers.
Yeah, good. That would be
We're very cautious about our homeless issues in Los Angeles and trash issues.
We have a code in Venice, so you got to punch a code into. You can't just walk in and go into the restroom and wreck it.
And when we had an applicant last year for another restaurant, I took the liberty of checking all the conditional use beverages in almost all of Studio City and compared them with the hours. And what I found was, even with some restaurants that were mentioned earlier in this meeting, such as Granville, they can operate till 2 a.m. They used to stay open later. They close much earlier now. Same thing with many of the other restaurants on Ventura Boulevard and the other streets, as well as inside the sportsman's shops. They all have 1 a.m. and none of them stay open until 1 a.m. So I don't know if Studio City is going to turn into perhaps West Hollywood with a swinging nightlife, because all these other restaurants do have the ability to stay open that late. And with the exception of one Mexican restaurant bar in Eastern Studio City, I'm not going to say the name, none of them stay open that late. So also physically, as many people have mentioned, this particular building, the way it faces Ventura Boulevard, the way it's all inside, I mean, I don't think anyone, even in the residences across the river, would even know that whether you're opened or shut. I wouldn't. I mean, I've been in that area late at night before. I also was checking out what was going on at the river at night, and the only thing I heard were the generators from some of the encampments. So I think your presentation was pretty thorough. I think Richard still has a question, and then we can entertain a motion. Richard?
Yeah, just a quick thing, that because of the trash can is right across the river from people, you gotta make sure a way of dumping your trash. Yes, you have to dump your trash. And yes, you have to break the bottles from anything which is liquor. I still am concerned particularly of the noise feature. Also, if people want to do something and leave, can they park along Laurel Grove in a reasonable manner to get the stuff?
Just one thing about our trash, it's mostly paper goods, so they don't make a lot of noise, not a lot of cans or bottles.
And we don't sell bottles. The beer is poured in a plastic cup.
So
We sell cans. But
it would be like throwing out your trash at your house mostly. It wouldn't be like a lot of bottles or cans or stuff like that. Our goods are paper goods.
What about people pulling next to you and wanting to do takeout?
Yeah, those are passenger loading zone right on Laurel Grove, right, guys? I know there was
Yes,
there.
yes, there's
Yeah,
a
there's
loading zone
like
there.
2 passenger
Okay.
loading stalls right there. Yeah.
That's
There's a
fine.
red zone and like a big yellow zone.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Scott, am I
Just
last?
one more note about the parking. There is a parking structure across the street that Granville uses. You know that it's a little bit underneath, where, right across the
Yeah.
street.
But it's private. That's
Oh,
private.
It's private, okay. Well, you might be, I mean, you have the parking structure underneath. I'm sure you can use that. I don't think that's gonna be a problem.
There's
Anyway.
a ton of parking. Dean, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I'll just kind of wrap up. As Josh mentioned from the top, I have, witnessed, been involved and was involved in the Encino location. I know Sal and Josh well, and they are, they do what they say they're going to do. They're hands-on operators, and I can reach Josh at any time in the past. His cell phone works. But most importantly, they are hands-on. They have an excellent relationship with the landlord. And I have some other properties that I handle in the area. So, I'm always around, and I do see it's cleanly. So I know of no complaints from Encino and or that landlord. And like I say, they're operators. They tend to be overstaffed inside in a way, so they do have people. That being said, Barry talked about the signage a little bit, and Scott brought it up, and I guess if it's approved, it's approved. A little surprised on the awning signage that has Fat Sal's kind of in the background, because my understanding is you could have one sign, and the fact that the sign kind of says Fat Sal's many a times, it's a background, but if it's approved, it's approved. If you know what I mean, as far as kind of, it's clever and promotional and artsy, and it's cool.
We're taking that Fat Sal's pattern and basically ghosting it in behind it, not really very vibrant, like more of a shadow.
Yeah, no, and I think it's cool. I just don't know how. I guess if planning is calling it one sign and shadow, great. It's nice. As there were 2 restrooms. I came in late, but there's 2 restrooms obviously in there.
One.
There's only one?
Yeah, one
So-
unisex. Oh no, there might be 2. I think there are.
You gotta have 2 with wine and beer.
Yes, yeah, beer
Yeah,
and wine.
Well, no, the guys, the county board of supervisors last year altered that ordinance. So in LA County, beer and wine service alone doesn't trigger a second restroom. They just left it to the plumbing code. California plumbing code determines how many restrooms you have. So yeah, beer and wine no longer triggers 2 restrooms. So.
Wow. Okay.
Thanks, Manny.
Dean, I thought the same thing too.
Good to know. Unsigned electric stove. The patio. I know you have shown nothing about the patio. There's an inviting patio there. There's lots of outdoor patio in Encino. I would think we would want patio, but it's not kind of discussed.
The landlord has sort of some rules about using that outdoor area. It doesn't completely belong to us. It's sort of shared space. And he's got, I forget exactly what we're allowed to have from his perspective, but it wasn't a ton of seating. It was like 3 or 4 tables, I believe, and they have to confer to the way he wants it to look and the spacing of it. So it's not something I'd like to do at night. During the day, weather providing.
Okay. Fine. No, I'm obviously I'm a supporter.
Adele, would you mind sharing the screen with the draft motion I prepared that's neutral, or do I need to do it? There you go. So I'm going to read this, and then we can, sorry about that, we can talk about drafting this in a way that makes a statement and is not completely neutral. I'll read it with draft motion for the Land Use Committee. The Board of the Studio City Neighborhood Council supports the proposed project, Fat Sal's Studio City, project address 12265 West Ventura Boulevard, 91604, case number ZA-2022 -6930-CUB-SPP. A cup sup for change of use, facade alteration, and an on-site consumption of beer and wine in conjunction with a 1492 square foot bona fide restaurant with 36 interior seats, and hours of operation 11 a.m. to 3 a.m. daily. A conditional use permit to allow operations 11 a.m. to 3 a.m. daily in lieu of 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. on a commercial corner mini shopping center property. Applicant Salvatore Capic, Fat Sal's, and there's the link, and there's a space if we were to have any conditions. The way this will work is I'll need a second, then we can discuss.
Second,
Thank you, second from Richard. And just so you know, and I'm sure you know this from your other neighborhood councils, after we dispose of this, it then goes to the full board for a vote. So we're just in the committee part now. So as pardon me? As everybody can hear, I just read this as support and I have not mentioned any conditions. Does anybody have any? Well, I guess we'll go to, we have to go to public comment first. Now that we have a second, if anyone from the public wants to comment on the motion I just read. Barry Johnson, let me start your timer. You can unshare for the moment, Adele, and then when Barry's done, let me reset.
Okay. Keep in mind, between after midnight, the street, Ventura is empty. People are going to park and come and go to this establishment on the street. And that means Laurel Grove as well, which is both sides of Ventura near the housing. They're not going to go to the rear and go in the subterranean parking lot when there's parking on the street. They're just not. And that's where the commotion's going to be. If you were to sit out there tonight between midnight and 3, it would be dead. It would be totally dead. I'm telling you, because occasionally I'm there between like 2 and 4 in the morning in that area. It is dead on Ventura. And this is going to bring an element in if something is open. And Encino is a lot different. The residential is not as close to Ventura. It's farther away than it is in Studio City. I mean, all we have separating it is the river on one side and an alley on the other from the residential. So, I mean, this is a dangerous precedent that on the surface looks innocent, but you're going to live to regret this, because once one gets it, they're all going to ask for it. You know, it's just, we have stuck with pretty much 1 a.m. Friday, Saturday, and midnight Sunday through Thursday throughout Studio City, by and large, for years and years. I'm totally disappointed. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Let me lower your hand. Anyone else from the public before we go back to the committee that wants to comment on what we just heard? No, not seeing any more hands from the public. Oh, Chip Meehan, go ahead. I'll reset the timer for you.
Thank you. Quick question. Crave over in the a little bit east of the intersection we're talking about. It's about 4 or 5 blocks east over by Trader Joe's. They're open 24 hours a day. I'm unfamiliar with any issues over there, but I may be just uninformed. Have there been issues any place with the Crave facility? And the other point is on Laurel Grove, right adjacent to the proposed Big Sal's location, I believe CPK, which is upstairs, and also Green Apple, which is a Chinese restaurant that has a lot of takeout. Those 4 parking spaces adjacent on the east side of the street, north of Ventura,
have been for curbside delivery, but you guys can figure that piece of it out. Scott, are you aware? Is anybody aware of any problems with Crave?
I'm
haven't
pretty
heard.
I'm pretty friendly with the two operators of Crave. They're young guys. They're pretty family oriented guys. They run a really good proper restaurant over there. I can check with them and to see if they've had any issues.
Any other persons from the public? Not seeing any hands. Public comments closed. We can go back to the committee. I understand the concerns about the 3 a.m., but mind you, I mean, right down the street, Granville can be open till 2 a.m. if the business so warrants. So all the shops and sportsmen's can stay open till 1, and they're right across the river. Their parking actually is exposed to everyone who lives on the other side of the river. I'm not a sound expert, but I'm not hearing any problems if people park on Ventura or Laurel Grove to walk in and out of the restaurant. I mean, it's Ventura Boulevard, everything's facing Ventura, and actually during the day, a lot of people do park on the other side. They walk over the Laurel Grove Bridge and park in the residential area, because during the day, there's maybe times of not enough parking, not for the shops in this little mall, but for many of the other places. But at night, it doesn't happen. There's plenty of parking all around the area. And I know there is concern about what happens at 1, 2, 3 in the morning sounding louder because it's quiet, but I think in this particular location, I don't think it's a problem. It's not adjacent to other residences, but if anyone else disagrees. Are there any proposed changes or conditions on the motion that was read, or are we fine as is? I mean, they're going to clean up. They're not serving alcohol after midnight. All the other things we heard pretty much satisfied all my issues. Susan, did you have something? You can unmute yourself.
Brian, there we go. Yes, I'm opposed to 3 a.m. I think it's a bad precedent. I have the experience of living across from Jalapeno Pete's, and yes, that's a full bar. But it's not even the bar itself that's noisy. It's the racing cars and the racing motorcycles and the echoing off the hill, and it is awful. I mean, and it's about midnight when they close up that you get every night, you get that roaring of the cars. And if the drunks all go over to Fat Sal's for a sandwich after the bars close, then they go in there and come out and roar their engines. It's 3 a.m. is crazy time. You don't need things open at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I think Jalapeno Pete's is sort of different and distinct. I wouldn't.
It is different,
Yeah.
but it draws people in late hours, and who knows? I mean, maybe it's just a nice little quiet sandwich shop at 3 o'clock in the morning, but who? I don't know. I don't know why anyone would go there at 3 o'clock in the morning, so it's hard to relate, but that's why I don't think it needs to be open that late, I guess. You get all the restaurants along Ventura Boulevard opening later and later. I don't want to turn into West Hollywood or Hollywood, certainly.
Sure, I completely understand. I wouldn't want to penalize one business for the rowdy customers from another. I think as a matter of fairness, that wouldn't work. Plus, remember, the other businesses, even within stone's throw of where this is going to be, they can stay open till 2 if they so choose. They choose not to. And if there's no business at this location, they won't be open till 3, just as Granville isn't open till 2 and Sugarfish isn't open till 1. But Cafe Rogue or Rouge on Eureka, they can stay open till 2. they choose not to.
Two's
So,
better than three, you know, there's
well, mean-
every hour's, you know.
yeah, I got you. So are you proposing an amendment with a condition or?
Yeah, 1 o'clock, 1 a.m.
So
instead
in
of
order-
3.
In order for
What
that,
happened to 2? What happened to 2? All the other businesses get 2. Why do we get 1?
No, not all the other businesses have to. I didn't know Granville did. Most of the
Well,
businesses
that's
are
got
1.
just,
there's plenty that have 2 a.m. But if you're proposing something, it won't go forward unless there's a second.
Well, Susan,
Yes.
what about 1 a.m. from like, I don't know what is it, Monday to Thursday, and 2 a.m. from Friday to Sunday or something like that? What about that? Sort of keeping in line with, you know, or I don't know. That's just, I don't know. Do you have a suggestion, Scott or Dean?
No, I don't. I would just go as it is and give the business a shot.
Thank you.
Give it a shot.
thanks, Scott.
That would be my preference before we start going down that road again of trying to dictate the hours for personal preference. I think
Well, it's not for personal preference, it's for consistency within the neighborhood, which I think is, speaks to Barry's point. You know, so you could do 2 a.m. instead of 3.
So I'm looking at Granville's hours, and tonight they close at 9 o'clock.
Right, but they have
Susan,
the
that's
point
because
is
they
they have a
choose to.
permit,
It's a
they have
different
a permit
operation.
to stay open till 2. If they should choose to. That,
Granville
and the
I
whole,
guess I want to alleviate the fears of a bunch of restaurants staying open late. That just won't happen. Like Granville, they can stay open late. They choose not to. And the reason that they choose not to is simply because they don't either do the business for it or it becomes a challenge for operations. It's exactly what Fat Sal's does. So that those late hours are consistent with every one of our other restaurants in Los Angeles. And the same concerns about noise and creating problems is been a concern with all of our neighborhoods and all of our neighborhood councils. We've tried to alleviate those fears and then operate in a way that justifies that we have those hours and do not cause problems and do not create noise. And my promise to you, all of you on this board, is that my cell phone works. I live in the neighborhood. I am up. You guys can all have my cell phone number. You can call me if there's ever an issue. I will fix it. I will make sure that there's no problems. If there is noise and it becomes a problem, I will shut the restaurant down early myself. I do not want to have issues with my neighbors or the community. That's not how we operate.
so. Not hearing an actual proposal for an amendment, going once, going twice.
Susan, were you trying to make an amendment?
I cannot vote for I won't vote for the 3 a.m. If you open your business and everything's quiet and good and, you know, it's something I guess you can reapply for later, but to say do it and then trust people to make changes, I just don't think that happens. I guess I don't know you. I don't know you as people. Historically, trouble happens. The police don't care. Nobody cares, and noise goes on. That's my experience, rather than, you know, oh, we'll close down if we get too busy. You know, that's not likely going to happen. If it's not going to be busy, you don't need to be open. And if it's going to be really busy, it's going to ask for trouble. So I just don't see any point of having it us allow it.
So if you want to make an amendment, I'll second it for you.
Okay, I want to make an amendment to say I would say 11 p.m. on weekdays and 1 a.m. on weekends. It would be my vote, but that may be harsh. My hunch is, you know, these other places that are closing early. I'm looking at I'm Googling CPK these other places, they're all closing early. So my hunch is you will be closing much earlier than this.
Why don't we
But,
just do, why don't you just do 2 AM for the whole time?
Well, because I think that's still too late. 2 AM is too late. 1 AM, I would say 1 AM, if you want to do 1 AM every night. Or make it a 1 o'clock thing and then people know when that's fine. I'll make the amendment for 1 AM. 7 days a week.
And you're seconding that, Adele?
I would second 2 AM. I'm not gonna second 1 AM,
Okay,
sorry.
so there's I mean, an amendment has to just come forth or it doesn't. I mean, just
Right,
make.
Either second or not.
So there's, okay, now I move we go to the vote on the motion as presented, unamended. Scott Mandel is yes. Adele Slaughter,
no,
Richard Niederberg,
Yes,
Dean Cutler,
Yes.
and Susan.
Nope.
Is that 3-2? Is my math correct?
yep,
Mhm.
Motion carries. Okay, so Fat Sal's, I will email you with the agenda for our board meeting, which is Wednesday, the 18th. Is that, let me double check that date, is Wednesday. It'll be Wednesday, the 18th. I will be reading the motion as we just passed. And then you will be given a chance, it will have public comment, and then you'll be given a chance to answer questions there, and it'll go to a board vote. It's possible it could be amended at that time as well. So watch your email. I'll keep you in the loop, but you can mark your calendar for the 18th. The meeting is at 7 p.m. So thank you for attending, and we'll see you on the 18th. And we'll
Yeah.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, everybody.
everyone.
Night.
Thanks.
See you on the
Thank you.
18th. Thank you.
Good night.
Okay. Going on to item 6. Discussion regarding LA City Planning Commission implementation of Assembly Bill 2097. So this is just a discussion. There's not going to be a vote. It's just to sort of make us all aware of what city planning is doing as far as the enforcement of this Assembly Bill that was authored by our Assembly member, who's our district now, Laura Friedman. It concerns parking. Everybody has a link to it. Adele, do you want to share that on the agenda, or
which one?
the
link?
Assembly Bill? Well, actually, I could do it real quick.
Oh, I got it,
It's from Vince Bertoni.
I got it.
Okay.
Where's the, oh, there you are. Okay.
If you don't, I can do it.
Got it.
So anyway, everybody should have received this. This is from the director of planning. This is how city planning is going to implement 2097, which removes the ability pretty much. I mean, I'm just going to paraphrase here, that if you're within half a mile of a transit stop, the city cannot impose minimum parking requirements for any project, commercial, residential, what have you, which would apply to the applicant we just heard that is within half a mile of a transit stop. So theoretically, they wouldn't have to provide parking. So this would also be for all types of housing. And you can see this is really going to affect Studio City, because we have transit stops as they define it on Lankershim and Laurel. And it would be easy to create a transit stop on Coldwater Canyon. So it would pretty much encompass almost all of Studio City. All they have to do in the rush hours is increase the frequency of bus 167 or change the route of the dash line. And we're suddenly in in a transit stop area. I guess theoretically, a complex like the Residence and Sportsman's would perhaps not have to provide a single parking spot. It reads pretty draconian. If you want to challenge it, the city tells you that, or at least it says in this memo, that if you challenge it, they're not going to look very favorable upon it, that it really has to be something quite extreme, and you have to pay for the studies yourself if you want to challenge. We'll go back to the committee. I'm not an expert on this. Actually, I'm thinking of getting someone from city planning to do a little Q&A with us as this starts to become implemented, so we really understand what's going on. We obviously haven't received any applications yet that are taking advantage of this. So I don't think we have anything to worry about in the very near future, but I think it is going to be a concern as the developments continue. I'm getting a lot of emails from city planning about all kinds of projects in the works. So this is probably gonna change the rules of the game to the point where things are going to be picking up.
Yeah, this is going to promote applications.
Yes, we're going to get busy. This committee is going to have a lot of work ahead of us when people will obviously take advantage of this. And let's go to the public. There's probably people in the public who are more versed in this than I am. So Peter, unmute yourself and go ahead.
Well, I certainly am not well versed in this, but what are the chances once the developers decide to go for absolute minimum parking, and then obviously the cars are not going to go away, so they're going to be driven into the neighborhood. So what's the possibility of permit parking and restricted hours for parking to be taken away from the residential areas?
Well, that's actually a fair point. If they're going to not allow the city to restrict, to enforce parking minimums, I would imagine next stop is the removal of preferential parking where people are going to park. So it's a fair point, and we should probably ask that question of someone from city planning to come in and present. Is there anyone else from the public that wanted to chime in? Chip, are you about to raise your hand? No. You're
You're
muted.
muted, Chip.
I was pulling the bill up on the other side. The fact that we're going to have someone from city planning come in. This is going to clearly roll over into sustainability and everything else. I mean, this really does change the dynamic. If you think about the conversations around the Sportsman's residences and their 3 levels of subterranean parking. I mean, it has just been an element of all the conversation about development, and this throws that out the window. And now you add on top of that the Ventura Cahuenga specific plan potential revision. We need to figure out where the rules and expectations are.
I just want to ask a really weird question though, and maybe Dean can help with this. If you're building a building and you're having, 520 apartments, who the fuck would not put parking in for those people? Why would, I'm sorry, we drive here. I know Melanie wants us all to take the bus and the subway and get on our bikes, but we drive. I mean, that's what LA is. It's a driving. I mean, who would make a building and not put parking spaces in for their people?
If you read the memo, and it's very densely worded, but read the part about how they address voluntary parking. While there are no enforcements of the parking minimums that we had on the books for restaurants and for residences, and it's also based on square footage and such. The developers are allowed to provide voluntary parking, but it read to me that it can't be for free, that people have to be charged for parking. And it has to, if I'm reading it correctly, the parking they provide has to also be open to the public. I could be mistaken. So again, the way it read to me is if you voluntarily provide parking, then the electric vehicles and the handicapped and shuttle vans for ride shares, those regulations all kick in. So there has to be X number of handicapped and electric spots, but it reads as if you have to charge. You can call up that sheet if you want and go right to, it's only, I think, 4 pages long. And look, it is an interesting point you make. Who is going to build something that doesn't have parking? And I gather you will build it if it doesn't have parking, if there's plenty of residential parking nearby. So you can cut your building costs, build more, and just tell everybody to park on the street, which then goes to Peter's point of, obviously the knee-jerk reaction is everyone's going to want a preferential parking district in their neighborhood. So to counter that, they're going to have to get rid of,
This part, when it provides voluntary, the city
Yeah.
may. Oh, so the city wins anyway, which way it goes.
This makes no sense. And to your point, Adele, what project would not want to provide what we historically know as, the convenience and opportunity to park?
Because places that you
or
can't park in, you don't go.
Yeah, it's a deterrent.
It's a total deterrent.
Ironically,
Doesn't make practical
ironically,
sense.
in Studio City, we have a major transit hub, the Universal City Station, and people park there to use public transportation. So people will be parking just because of the nature of this, and that we don't have too many people that are still on. The hand is up from Peter. Peter, go ahead. You can have another bite at the apple. If you're still
Hi there, sorry. Obviously sportsmen's is my pet peeve. I think they would be one that would try to cut their parking requirements way down and then go lobby hard with Nithya how great it is to build a ramp on the north side of the river, knowing that that's their overflow parking on the other side of the river. So I think a developer would be, depending on the developer, would be moved to reduce their parking to what they think is the bare minimum that people will deal with, knowing that they can park across the river or in the neighborhoods.
But I think that could be, and I could understand that theory, Peter's theory as well. I also think that some of these projects are tenant driven, and if tenants don't foresee parking available for what has historically been their customers and visitors, they're going to hesitate to see something, in practice versus theory before they're committing to some of these projects that potentially have no parking. That's untested, uncharted waters for some of these tenants that are looking at what are the parking rules and regulations of the developer of the project. And there's often pretty succinct language as to, those rules and regulations. So it's a slippery slope, this one.
Well, I mean, would you pay $5,000 a month for a 1-bedroom if you had no parking?
You would in New York. I mean, and you're right. That's the difference. And the theory behind this is we're moving in an ideal way towards a society where we don't have cars. Because if we were living in Boston, San Francisco, New York City, Chicago, we may not, or we may have 1, not 2 per household.
What are the measuring tools again on the transit hub?
Half a mile from a transit stop. And my understanding of a transit stop is Laurel Canyon and Lancashire.
But what weren't some of the other
Why
bills?
Laurel Canyon? If it's Lancashire.
Because of the number of, because during rush hour, there's buses that travel or arrive in every 15 minutes going up Laurel and down Ventura.
Hmm.
I think that's how the Hoffman Apartments originally got their transit
Yeah,
bonus.
yeah. But I don't know. I just think about it in my travels, my experience of these tenants saying, you know, what does parking look like? And if it's not available, they're very hesitant to want to commit. At the moment, I mean, this might be a whole nother new playing field, but you know, the specific plan has parking requirements and ratios for what are somewhat largely outdated in some uses. You know, for instance, a gym is 10 per thousand parking, and a nail salon is considered retail and 3 per thousand, but you can have 12, 15 people in a nail salon, and that sitting for your nails and mani-pedi is an hour plus, as much and as long as the workout. Hour and a half. So it's really inconsistent. And some of these were old parking ratios, and medical has a different ratio, but you know, restaurant, gym, all the fitness related things are all 10 per thousand. And yeah, when they get classes, we deal with this often in practice and in theory. You've got classes moving on every hour. You've got a group arriving and a group trying to get out. And you got this stacking, you know, logistics. And often in some of the properties, we're like, this is, you know, just crowds the parking. It's not manageable.
Susan, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to comment about, oh, am I muted?
No,
No,
The way I see the city is functioning is they want us to quit driving, and you can't compare us to Chicago or New York, of course, because we don't have mass transportation and everybody wants a car. But until things get so miserable that people start getting rid of their cars, people aren't going to ride bikes. It's too dangerous. And I have a friend who worked in the real estate selling business, and she couldn't sell the last few condos that didn't have more than one parking place because nobody wanted them, you know. And so until the realtors figure that out, that people need parking, you know, if you live by the subway station, yes, you can go. It's still hard to get around. I mean, I use the subway if I'm going downtown or to Hollywood, but I don't if I'm going to Santa Monica. I mean, you know, this is not the community to get rid of your cars. It's going electric small and electric makes much more sense.
Sure. And if you look at this in concert with all the other legislation coming down and the push for, we've heard in previous meetings, taking out a lane of Ventura Boulevard and turning it into a bus lane, removing the parking on Ventura Boulevard, the lack of parking requirements for, you know, 100% affordable, the fact that employees at major developments are not provided with parking, and they're, by the admission of the employees themselves, they have to park in residential areas. They're not taking the bus, and they're not riding their bike, as Susan says. I ride my bike. And they're not walking. So it seems that the goal is to make driving so miserable that people won't. And then you won't need parking spots. You will just need your pass for the bus. And, you know, they tried with the dash that goes through our neighborhoods that takes us all to Ventura Boulevard. I ride it. It's free. It works. It gets you to, you know, Laurel Canyon to Ventura and gets you back, and it's fine. But people are, I mean, look at Sportsman's. Their success shows us that their parking lot is jammed, and with the gym and all the other shops, the employees have there's hundreds of employees there, by the way, with nowhere to park. And they're not taking the bus to work. They're parking in the nearby neighborhoods who now want preferential parking, which, if you follow the logic, that will likely, or should be, if you follow the logic, all completely eliminated. Because Peter's, your hand's still up, or
No,
you know, this one more time, and then we'll close. this issue.
Okay.
I'm gonna get someone from city planning to hopefully come speak to us about this. Just wanted to sort of get everybody all riled up.
By the way, it's very hard to get city planning to come
I know.
because they're so terrified of getting complained at, by the way. So just so you know,
Rightfully So,
we might
the-
have to
but
get someone
The
who's.
planner from Councilmember Rahman's office might
Okay.
Is it
be someone.
Mehmet?
Yeah,
So,
we do
so
need
can I
to-
make one more comment?
Sure, go ahead.
So of course it's about Sportsman's, but Dean was saying what developer wouldn't want to provide parking. Well, Sportsman's knowingly played a little fast and loose with the parking, knowing that Erewhon was coming in. They shoved that in, considered it retail and not a market. So if you look at the requirements for parking for markets, I'm no expert, but what I read, even the size of the spots are different for markets. They're larger because you need to get in and out with packages and stuff. So this, there was a train wreck coming. We all told them, nobody listened, and they created a mess. And perhaps it was knowing that they could spill over into the neighborhood.
Okay, well, I put it on the agenda just to see if anyone's interested, and apparently all of you are interested in this topic, so I will pursue it. Thank you very much, and we'll move on to 7. If Dean has anything to update us on as to what's going on as far as commercial real estate, go ahead, and then we'll be done for the night.
I have something too after. Dean.
Okay.
I don't have anything super moving. I mean, talking to the retailers and all, everyone had pretty good seasons through the Christmas season. Surprising, they didn't know what to expect. But through some of the discussions through the bid and all, they seem to all have done surprisingly well from an economic standpoint. They're still concerned about, homeless and there's been a lot of broken windows and that type of stuff that continues to happen. But from a landlord and tenant standpoint, and new deals, things are leasing. There are a handful of new shops. Some have opened, as I'm sure you've seen them. I mentioned them last month. And there still remains, even to Fat Sal's, I was really kind of surprised how long the Jamba Juice stayed vacant, in my opinion, because, and I was not involved on either side of that deal in Studio City, but I was rather surprised with what I see as the demand for restaurants in Studio City, and I was pretty surprised that sat as long as it did. I have, a couple of vacancies, and the bandwidth for 1,500 foot restaurants is overwhelming demand from all sorts of new and or second and third, fourth location type Fat Cell type operations, bakeries, different, some branded, some not. But I have the Pizza Rev, which I'm sure most of is closed. They didn't pick up an option. They weren't doing the business that they did before COVID even, but during and after, so they didn't pick up an option. But it's 2,650 feet, and there's demand for some of it, and we have some working deals, but a lot of the inquiry is, can you divide it? Can it be reduced in footage and such? So that it's a popular size, the 1,500 foot, and then if it's second generation restaurant, there's overwhelming desire for that. There's on the sales side, there's been a couple of sales. The Sit and Sleep building was on the market for a while. They reduced the price. It was in escrow. It fell out of escrow, and in the end, while they weren't successful at the beginning, they were in the end. And Sit and Sleep actually did buy the building, so now they are quote unquote owner user. So they were patient, but they knew what they could do, and that was interesting. The Wells Fargo building closed, and I don't I'm not aware of any development auspices there at the moment. But, you know, as far as commercial sales and all, you know, numbers are challenging with interest rates, much like homes, but there's still a lot of commercial equity that wants to come into Studio City. And a lot of people want to be in Sherman Oaks Studio City, and it really dies off substantially when I start to see activity into Encino and Woodland Hills, unless you're kind of in Warner Center, the Village, and near Westfield, and you know, Stan Kroenke and the Rams and all of that. You know, PR is really not determined as to what and how it's going to operate and work, but when you talk to all these retailers, much of them want to be, you know, one of their focuses is Studio City, Studio City, Studio City. So, you know, it's a good thing, you know, in a lot of respects, and we have our concerns about it, you know, as a group as well. Scott mentioned, asked me briefly about Bed Bath and Beyond. I think we've heard different rumors about Bed Bath and Beyond and that operation, and there's, you know, in the press, are they going to survive? Are they going to go into a bankruptcy? I think if anyone's been into the Studio City store, which was a very successful store in the country for many, many years, their inventory levels and their shelves and everything are really, you know, kind of scary feeling. Yeah. And maybe that's a shift online and all, but I don't see them getting rid of that store or shedding that store. Sometimes these bankruptcies will allow them to shed non-performing stores, but I don't see them shedding this store. And I think the landlord would probably cooperate with them if they needed to negotiate the lease terms there. You know, there's rumor about that, those parcels being redeveloped. Ultimately, we've all talked about it and learned about it, but I think the landlord would work with them to keep them in. If they were looking to close, they would say what numbers do work and probably keep that store open. But that's just my opinion. Because most of those leases expire in the next 5 to 7 years. Along from pins to pins they own, but from basically the bowling alley to Whitsett. What else can I tell you? Any questions anyone has that seeing, hearing in the marketplace or particular spot? Van Eaton Galleries is open now, I think, if anyone's wandered through there. It's an interesting auction, memorabilia, a lot of Disney related stuff. Next door is going to be a sports rehab facility, kind of cutting edge. They have a location in Encino, actually, catty corner from Fat Sal's, actually, in the office building there. It's called Sports Rehab LA. They're under construction. I think they're going to open in probably 30 to 45 days. They might be open. A handful of little retailers, clothing, and a vegan little store over by Bluestone Lane in the Arts Deli block called Bread Block, largely vegan. A couple of little shops, Buckington, clothing apparel company just opened, regional brand. So it's busy. There's lots of foot traffic. Although, having said that, you know, I'm watched, you know, our area kind of East Studio City and have been thinking, and I think I'm not sure it's in transition, but you know, the Shops at Sportsman's have drawn a lot of traffic and potentially or possibly, you know, away from Laurel and Ventura. I'm not saying instead of, it's in addition to, but you know, the foot traffic there and obviously the parking is busy. And so you wonder if it pulled away. Madewell Jeans was right in the heart there across from Pete's Coffee, and they shut that location down and they opened up a bigger location in the Shops Sportsman's when the Amazon store pulled out. That location was available and they took that store, so they closed the other Studio City store. So I do think that there's, it's a different mix, it's a different project, has a different feel, exclusive of all the issues that we know about it, but, from an aesthetic standpoint and an environment and zen or whatever you want to call it, walking your dog around there, the water feature, et cetera, it seems people are gravitating toward it. So what that does to sales longer term in the village area historically remains to be seen, but there's still a lot of demand that want to be in, and they're full. At the moment, I think they have 1,000-foot store at the shops, but depending what happens in phase 2, there's some more shops coming there, but that's what I know.
Chip, you have a comment or question about that? Go ahead.
Yeah, I've got a question. So Dean, was it Calico Corners? Wasn't it rumored that one of the properties on the south side of the river, east of the Midwood properties, was sold sort of between the bowling alley and Sportsman's?
That would be news to me.
Okay, so
And rumor, because east of that are 2 different parcels, and they're both long-term ground leased from the Pike & Company. And east of that is the M. David Paul office building,
right,
which they own in fee. So I'm not aware of that, nor have I heard it. But like I say, I don't profess to get all the information, but I can look into it to see. I mean, I spoke with Robert Pike today, so.
no, next time I see my neighbor, I'll open the door and scream, "You're a liar," and then slam the door and see how that works.
Well, perhaps just where you got your information from.
Yeah.
Thank you for that update, Dean. It's always appreciated. Now we'll go on to the next item 8. Anybody else from the committee have anything they want to vent or comment about? Maybe tell me to put something on the agenda for next month. If not, I'll make one statement.
I
yeah,
have
Bill.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all had something.
So actually Scott, Chip and I have been down to the land on the river between Colfax and Tahunga on the is it south side of the street? Yeah, towards the mountains. And there is a no, I don't. There is a sensitive natural habitat of about 100, at least 100 oak trees that are quite old and established, and black walnuts. And we're talking about forming a task force to try to preserve that land as some developments are coming in. And we can talk more about that later, but I wanted, the sustainability committee is already starting to work on it, and I would like it to be a joint effort with the land use committee. And we have some ideas which I'm sort of formulating right now of how to approach this. I've got a couple of ideas which we'll share with you as time goes by. I just wanted to alert you all. If you haven't been down there, it's a pretty impressive strip of land with impressive trees. There's probably one of those trees down there is probably 300 years old. It is so big, oak tree. And there's some toyon and a bunch of native pines and other things. And so I'll be updating you and figuring out how to preserve this piece of land. So
Sure, absolutely. That's definitely an area that's going to be developed. It's not going to stay parking lots and auto yards, and it should definitely be sustainability and land use, because there's a lot of intertwined aspects of that. Richard? did you have something to?
Just want to know what's happened with Rafi's property, if you know.
Which property?
Across the street from CBS,
No idea. I have no idea.
you know, it's the across well, it's now a car repair place across the street from CBS.
Yeah,
Rafi was the former president of neighborhood council.
that was the one that challenged the transit-oriented corridor that came up. And nothing has happened that I'm aware of. He was still reconsidering his options.
Thank you.
Susan?
A comment on the trees. You know, if we stick with the specific plan about the setback from the river, most of all those big trees will be protected. It's just that everybody who wants to build along the river wants to, you know, not follow the setback and take out all the trees. So I'm totally with you in preserving trees. I think it's a shame.
It's not just that it's preserving trees, mind you, it is preserving trees, but it's not just that, it's that walnuts and oaks together create a sensitive natural habitat that support like some 300 species. And I'm talking about insects and birds and, you know, things that we can't see. So, you know, it should not be categorically exempt so that they can just take out whatever they want. And so, but we have to be, you know, we have to be pretty strong on pushing back on that. So more will be revealed, and I'll get more information and get some plans and send it to y'all. And you know, we'll work together with sustainability and because Chip is on sustainability with me, and you all are totally invited to our meetings too. I would love it if you came. Richard came last time, and he, you know, Richard, you missed that one of our board members made an announcement that there's going to be a memorial for P22 at the Greek.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we are looking at the mountain lion too.
Thank you.
So my last thought is tomorrow night, if you can, please attend our special board meeting. We are taking up the excellent work of our ad hoc committee run by Chip, and we'll be entertaining a motion regarding the Harvard Westlake River Park project. So tell all your friends, and if they can't make it, have them send an email and tell us what they think if they can't make it to the meeting live.
It'll be wild.
It'll be a fun time. So on that note, not hearing any objections, I'm going to adjourn this meeting at 8:41, and I thank everybody for attending. And I'll see most of you tomorrow and the rest of you next week at our regularly scheduled board meeting. Thank you and good night.
Good night.